Have you ever felt like every step you take is a battle, where pain in your knees, ankles, or back makes even the simplest tasks feel like a mountain to climb? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to ease that constant ache without relying on endless pills or creams that promise miracles but deliver little? At 84 years old, I've lived through that struggle, where walking to buy bread or climbing a single step felt like a test of endurance. But then, by chance, I discovered something unexpected. A simple, natural remedy that changed how I move, live, and feel. In this video, I'm sharing my story of how a teaspoon of cold-pressed mustard oil, paired with small, intentional changes, brought back a piece of my life I thought was lost forever. You need to watch until the end because this isn't just about an oil, it's about a possibility, a way to reclaim your mobility and dignity, no matter your age, with a solution so simple it might just surprise you. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know, so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. I am 84 years old, and for far too long, walking was a quiet, relentless torment. I rarely spoke about the pain, not out of stoicism, but because, at this age, you grow accustomed to a chorus of aches. Some days it was my ankles, swollen and stubborn. Other days, my knees groaned with every bend. And on the worst days, my entire body seemed to protest in unison, as if it had forgotten how to move without complaint. There came a point when even the simplest tasks, like walking to the corner store for a loaf of bread, felt like waging a war against my limbs. The soles of my feet burned as if I'd stepped on hot coals. My knees creaked like old floorboards, and climbing a single step required a pause, a deep breath, and a mental calculation to ensure I wouldn't collapse under the effort. I tried everything I could think of to ease the pain. Pills, creams, exercises, you name it. Some offered fleeting relief, like a momentary breeze on a sweltering day. Others left me more frustrated, wondering if I was doing something wrong or if my body had simply given up. But the pain never left. It clung to me, a shadow fused to my bones, a constant reminder that my body was no longer the ally it once was. I stopped looking forward to leaving the house. The world outside felt too big, too demanding, and every step was a negotiation between willpower and defeat. Then, one unremarkable day, something unexpected happened. It wasn't a doctor's visit or a new prescription. It was a chance conversation, the kind you overhear and dismiss as folklore. A cooking oil of all things. Not the kind I'd used for decades to fry eggs or drizzle over salads, but one I'd never heard of, one that supposedly did more than season a dish. At first, I scoffed. Another old wives' tale, I thought, like the countless remedies I'd already tried and discarded. But curiosity, or perhaps desperation, got the better of me. I started with a teaspoon every morning, expecting nothing more than a strange taste in my mouth. Days passed, then weeks, and something remarkable began to happen. The pain, that ever-present shadow, started to fade, not all at once, but gradually, like fog lifting at dawn. My steps grew lighter. My knees protested less. One morning, without even realizing it, I walked 3 full blocks, 3 blocks, without stopping to catch my breath or brace for pain. For the first time in months, I crossed my living room without hesitation, without dread. This isn't a story of miracles or magic cures. It's not about a secret elixir that erases all ailments. But it is about something that gave me back a piece of my life. A piece I thought was gone forever. I want to share what I discovered, how I use it, why I believe it works, and why so few people seem to talk about it. If you or someone you know struggles with the kind of pain that makes every step a battle, perhaps my story will offer a glimmer of hope. Before I go on, I'm curious. How old are you, and where are you hearing this from? The silent weight of pain. Pain doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. It's not always the dramatic wince or the cry for help you see in movies. Sometimes, it's quieter, more insidious. A grimace when you rise from bed, a subtle sigh as you reach for a cup on a high shelf, or the brief pause before tackling a single stair, as if your body needs to sign a contract with itself to proceed. For me, it began with morning stiffness, the kind I dismissed as a natural byproduct of aging. After all, at 84, you don't expect your body to spring out of bed like it did at 20. But that stiffness grew into something more persistent, more oppressive. Mornings became a ritual of slow, deliberate movements. My legs felt foreign, as if they belonged to someone else, heavy and uncooperative. The soles of my feet burned after just a few steps, and my knees ached with a deep, gnawing pain that seemed to radiate from the bones themselves. At first, the discomfort came only after a long day. Maybe a walk that was a little too ambitious or standing too long in the kitchen. But soon, it was there from the moment I opened my eyes, a constant companion that greeted me as I sat up in bed. I stopped going to the market. The town square, where I used to sit and watch children play or chat with neighbors, felt like a distant memory. Even in my own home, I hesitated before standing to fetch a glass of water, weighing whether the effort was worth the pain. It wasn't just my body that hurt, it was the slow erosion of my independence. Every week, I lost a little more freedom, a little more of the life I'd known. I couldn't decide to go out on a whim anymore, not because I didn't want to, but because my body wouldn't let me. I sought help, of course. Doctors prescribed the usual anti-inflammatories, supplements, and physical therapy sessions. One doctor, with a kind but resigned tone, told me, "This is normal at your age. Try to stay active, move a little more." His words stung. Normal. Was this grinding pain, this betrayal by my own body, just part of the deal for living this long? And how was I supposed to move more, when every step felt like a punishment? For a while, I accepted it. I told myself this was my new reality, that pain was my companion for the rest of my days. But deep down, I wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. A trail of failed remedies. When pain becomes your daily reality, you'll try anything that promises even a sliver of relief. I did. I started with the basics. Ibuprofen, acetaminophen, the pills that sat in every drawer of my house. They dulled the pain for a few hours, but it always returned, stronger, as if it had been waiting in the wings. Worse, the pills took a toll on my stomach. Acidity, nausea, a constant unease that forced me to add a gastric protector to my daily regimen. It was a vicious cycle. One medication to fix the pain, another to fix the side effects, and still no real solution. Then came the creams. I tried them all: menthol, arnica, capsaicin, names I could barely pronounce. The packages promised relief, but all I got was a fleeting coolness or warmth on my skin. My joints, however, remained unmoved. I turned to exercise, hoping gentle movement might loosen the stiffness. I followed online videos for seniors, slow stretches, chair yoga, and walks in place. Some days I could manage. Others, just getting to the chair felt like scaling a mountain. I bought resistance bands, small hand weights, even a stationary bike that now sits in the corner of my room, draped in a towel that collects dust faster than I collect hope. It wasn't for lack of effort. Every new attempt was fueled by a stubborn determination to reclaim my mobility. But the frustration mounted. The money added up to creams, supplements, doctor visits, and physical therapy sessions, all chipping away at a pension that barely covered the basics. Each failure felt heavier than the last, not just because the pain persisted, but because it stole a little more of my belief that things could get better. I'll never forget the morning I tried to put on my socks. Such a simple act, one I'd done thousands of times without thought. I bent down, and a sharp pain shot through my lower back, so intense I dropped the sock and froze. I sat there, staring at my bare feet, the sock crumpled on the floor, and tears came, not from the pain, but from the overwhelming sense of helplessness. I couldn't even dress myself without a struggle. That day, I didn't talk to anyone. I sipped my coffee in silence, my feet cold, my spirit colder. If you've never felt that kind of defeat, it's hard to explain. The way it hollows you out, not just your body, but your sense of who you are. An unlikely answer. Sometimes, the answers we need come from the most unexpected places. For me, it was a Sunday afternoon in my nephew Paul's company. Paul, a physiotherapist with a passion for natural remedies, visited from out of town. As we sat over tea, he noticed the way I moved, slowly, deliberately, my hands braced against my waist for support. "Still hurting, Uncle?" he asked. "Every day," I replied, my voice flat. I'm getting used to it. He didn't push, but I saw the look in his eyes, a mix of concern and determination. A few days later he returned, this time carrying a small, unlabeled bottle of dark glass with a cork stopper. The liquid inside was a deep, golden amber, thick and viscous, with an earthy, slightly nutty aroma. "This is something I learned about in India," he said. "I met a woman there, over 90, who moved like she was 60. She swore by this oil, said it kept her going since she was young." I raised an eyebrow. I'd heard plenty of miracle stories before, and they usually ended in disappointment. But Paul was insistent. "It's just a teaspoon a day, on an empty stomach. Try it for a week. What's the harm?" He explained it was a cooking oil, one I'd never heard of, traditionally used in certain cultures not just for food but for its anti-inflammatory properties. He suggested I could rub it on my joints too, but the real benefit, he said, came from taking it orally. The bottle sat on my kitchen counter for days, eyed with suspicion. I wasn't convinced, but after another sleepless night, my body screaming with every turn, I decided to give it a try. The first teaspoon was an experience. Bitter, slightly spicy, with a warmth that lingered in my throat. It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't unbearable either. The first day, I felt nothing. The second, the same. But by the third or fourth day, something subtle shifted. My body didn't feel as heavy when I stood. The fire in my soles was less intense. By the end of the week, I noticed I could walk to the mailbox without wincing. It wasn't a lightning bolt of relief, but a slow, steady change. I kept at it, a teaspoon every morning, no fanfare, no expectations. Weeks later, I realized I was moving differently. Less cautiously, with a little more confidence. The day I walked 3 blocks without stopping, I almost didn't believe it. 3 blocks, after months of barely crossing my living room. It felt like a small miracle, not because the pain was gone entirely, but because it no longer defined every step. Why this matters. This oil isn't a cure-all, and I'm not here to sell you on a fantasy. Pain is still part of my life. Age doesn't let you off that easily. But this simple, unassuming remedy has given me something I thought I'd lost. The ability to move with less fear, to reclaim small pieces of my independence. I don't know why it works. Maybe it's the anti-inflammatory compounds Paul mentioned. Maybe it's something science hasn't fully explained yet. All I know is that it's made a difference for me. I wish I'd known about it sooner. I wish someone had talked about it, shared it, instead of letting it stay a quiet secret in some corner of the world. If you're struggling with pain, if you know someone who is, maybe this story will resonate. It's not about chasing miracles. It's about finding something that makes the days a little easier, the steps a little lighter. So, tell me, what's your story? How old are you, and where are you hearing this from? Maybe together, we can piece a little more hope. For years, I had resigned myself to the idea that pain was just a part of aging, an uninvited guest that settled into my joints and refused to leave. Every morning, I woke up to stiff knees, swollen ankles, and a back that felt like it was carrying the weight of the world. Simple tasks, like walking to the kitchen or bending down to tie my shoes, had become daunting challenges, each step a negotiation with my own body. I tried everything. Over-the-counter painkillers, prescription medications, heating pads, and even those expensive creams that promised relief but only left my skin sticky and my wallet lighter. Nothing worked for long. The pain always came back, sometimes sharper than before, as if mocking my efforts. So, when my nephew showed up one day with a small, unassuming bottle of dark, pungent oil, I was skeptical. He called it cold-pressed mustard oil, a remedy he swore by, something his wife's family in India had used for generations. I looked at the bottle, its contents thick and golden, with a smell so sharp it stung my nostrils. I didn't know what to make of it, but I was desperate enough to try anything. One more attempt couldn't hurt. Could it? The first morning, I took it as my nephew instructed. 1 teaspoon, mixed with nothing, swallowed with a glass of warm water on an empty stomach before breakfast. I stood in my quiet kitchen, the early light filtering through the curtains, and braced myself. The taste was intense, bitter, almost aggressive, with a warmth that lingered in my throat like a smoldering ember. I grimaced, forcing it down, my face contorting with the effort. I didn't know if I was doing it right, if it would harm me, or if it was even worth the trouble. My mind swirled with doubts. Was this some old wives' tale? Would it upset my stomach or interact with my medications? But after so many failed attempts at relief, pills, patches, and therapies that promised miracles but delivered none, one more teaspoon didn't seem like such a risk. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. The first 2 days passed without much fanfare. I felt no different, no better or worse. The oil's strong flavor still assaulted my senses each morning, and I wondered if I was wasting my time. But on the 3rd day, something subtle shifted. It wasn't a dramatic movie magic moment. No sudden leap out of bed or miraculous disappearance of pain. Instead, it was a quiet change, one I almost missed. As I swung my legs over the side of the bed, I noticed my feet weren't as puffy as usual. My ankles, which often looked like they'd been inflated overnight, seemed less swollen, more like they belonged to me again. I stood up, testing my weight gingerly, expecting the familiar ache to flare up. It didn't. I chalked it up to a coincidence, maybe a good night's sleep or a random fluke. My skepticism held firm. I'd been burned by false hope before. But on the 4th day, the change became harder to dismiss. I woke up feeling lighter. Not just physically, but in a way that's hard to describe, like a fog lifting from my body. I walked from my bedroom to the kitchen without gripping the furniture for support, something I hadn't done in months. It wasn't intentional. I didn't set out to test myself. It just happened. I moved with an ease I hadn't felt in years, my steps steadier, less calculated. That night, I realized something else. I had slept through the night. No waking at 4 a.m. with sharp, stabbing pains in my legs, no tossing and turning, no staring at the ceiling in frustration. I didn't know if it was the oil or just my body finally granting me a small reprieve, but for the first time in weeks, I felt rested. It was a small victory, but it felt sacred. By the 5th day, the changes were undeniable. I bent down to pick up a napkin that had slipped off the table, and I did it without hesitation, without the usual mental checklist of how to brace myself or how much it would hurt. I sat on the sofa and stood up again with a fluidity that surprised me. The pain hadn't vanished entirely. It was still there, a dull reminder in the background, but it had retreated, as if giving me a moment to breathe. I could feel my body responding, not just to the oil but to the possibility of relief. Still, I was cautious. I'd experienced brief moments of respite before, only for the pain to return with a vengeance. Was this just another false dawn? Was it the oil, or was my mind so desperate for hope that it was tricking me? I didn't want to get carried away, but the evidence was mounting. My body felt different, and as much as I doubted, I couldn't deny what I was experiencing. I kept up the routine, taking my teaspoon of mustard oil every morning, observing myself like a scientist experimenting. I noted every change, no matter how small, the way my knees creaked a little less, the way my fingers felt less stiff when I gripped my coffee mug, the way I could stand at the sink to wash dishes without needing to sit down halfway through. The changes were subtle at first, so quiet that no one else noticed. My daughter didn't comment, my neighbors didn't remark. But true change, the kind that matters, often starts in silence, building slowly until it can't be ignored. After a week, then 2, the differences became more pronounced. I no longer felt the need to collapse into every chair I passed on my way through the house. Before, walking from the living room to the bathroom was an odyssey, each step a calculated risk. Now, I moved without pausing, without overthinking, almost like I used to in my younger days. Then came a moment I hadn't dared to hope for. One afternoon, I decided to walk to the park at the end of my street. I hadn't been there in months, avoiding it because I knew the halfway mark would bring excruciating pain in my back or feet, forcing me to turn back. That day, I grabbed my cane out of habit, but as I walked, I realized I was carrying it in my hand, not leaning on it for support. I moved slowly, deliberately, but I didn't stop. When I reached the park, I sat on a bench, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. The air felt crisp, alive, as if I was celebrating something holy. It wasn't just about being there, it was about arriving on my terms, under my power. By the 3rd week, I pushed myself further. My daughter lives in a 2nd-floor apartment in a building without an elevator. For months, I'd only visited when someone could come down to help me climb the stairs. But one day, I decided to try. I gripped the handrail, moving patiently, step by step, expecting the familiar burn in my knees or the tightness in my back. It never came. I reached her door, slightly winded but triumphant. When she opened it, her eyes widened in shock. "You climbed alone?" she asked, her voice a mix of disbelief and pride. I just smiled, unsure how to explain it without sounding foolish. A teaspoon of oil a day. Could it be that simple? In the 4th week, the changes became visible to others. A neighbor, Mrs. Carter, spotted me in the town square, where I'd started walking to buy fresh bread or just to feel the sun on my face. "Mr. Anthony, you look different," she said, her eyes narrowing as if trying to solve a puzzle. "It's even in your face. What are you doing?" Her words stayed with me, not because I cared about appearances, but because I realized she was right. I wasn't just moving better. I felt better, lighter, as if something heavy had been lifted from my spirit as well as my body. The desire to do things, sweep the yard, walk to the store, sit in the garden with a cup of tea, had returned. These were small gestures, but they made me feel useful, capable, alive. Most importantly, I felt a spark of confidence, a belief that I could move without fear, that every step didn't have to be a battle. For the first time in years, I began to trust my body again. So, what was this oil, and why wasn't it on every pharmacy shelf, in every doctor's office? It was time to share what I'd learned. The bottle that had changed my daily life wasn't some modern miracle cure. It was cold-pressed mustard oil, a remedy as old as time, used for centuries in places like India, Bangladesh, and parts of the Middle East. This wasn't the yellow mustard you squeeze onto a hot dog. It was a thick, dark, unrefined oil extracted directly from the seeds of the mustard plant, with a pungent aroma that could clear a room. My nephew had brought it to me after hearing his wife's grandmother swear by it, claiming it eased her joint pain and kept her moving well into her 90s. I'd laughed it off at first, but now I was a believer. Curious, I dug deeper. I asked my nephew to share everything he knew, and I spent hours poring over whatever I could find online or in books. What I discovered was fascinating. Cold-pressed mustard oil isn't a new fad or a trendy superfood. It's a cornerstone of traditional medicine in many cultures. Its power comes from its natural compounds, erucic acid and isothiocyanates, which have potent anti-inflammatory properties that can soothe swollen joints and aching muscles from the inside out. It's also rich in omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin E, both critical for supporting bone health, soft tissue repair, and overall mobility. Beyond that, the oil stimulates blood circulation, which can reduce swelling, numbness, and that heavy, sluggish feeling in the legs and feet that had plagued me for so long. But its uses go beyond swallowing a teaspoon. In many Asian villages, elders warm the oil slightly and massage it into their knees, ankles, or lower backs before bed, a ritual passed down through generations. The warmth of the oil, combined with its stimulating properties, seems to melt away tension and improve blood flow, leaving joints more supple by morning. I tried this myself one evening, rubbing a small amount into my knees. The heat was soothing, and the next day, my legs felt looser, as if the oil had worked its way deep into the tissues. So why isn't this oil more widely known? Why isn't it prescribed by doctors or advertised on TV? The answer, I suspect, lies in its simplicity. In the West, we've been conditioned to trust solutions that come in sleek packaging with detailed instructions and hefty price tags. Natural remedies like mustard oil don't have big pharmaceutical companies behind them, no marketing campaigns or glossy commercials. They're too humble, too unprofitable. In many ways, this knowledge has been locked away in other cultures, overlooked by modern medicine in favor of synthetic drugs and quick fixes. Yet, for centuries, people have relied on this oil, not because of slick advertising, but because it works. I'm no scientist, and I'm not here to claim miracles. But I can't ignore what my body has told me. To understand more, I looked into the science behind it. A 2016 study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology explored the anti-inflammatory effects of mustard oil, finding that its isothiocyanates could reduce chronic pain with an efficacy comparable to certain nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs. Another study, published in the Indian Journal of Medical Research, highlighted its role as a traditional remedy for mild to moderate joint and muscle ailments, particularly in older adults. beyond the studies, there's the weight of history. Thousands of people across generations, from rural villages to bustling cities, have used this oil with results so consistent it's woven into their cultural fabric. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. This isn't to say mustard oil is a cure-all. It's not magic, and it doesn't erase pain. Some days, my joints still ache, especially when the weather turns cold or I overdo it. But the difference is undeniable. I move with more ease, sleep with less interruption, and live with a renewed sense of possibility. Most importantly, I've regained something I thought I'd lost forever: trust in my body's ability to carry me through the day. That, to me, is worth more than any pill or cream. A teaspoon of mustard oil, a small seed with a mighty legacy. It's changed how I walk, how I live, and how I hope. In the small, tight-knit community where I live, people don't question whether something works, they simply try it. It's a kind of wisdom that flows naturally, passed down through generations like a cherished family recipe, from grandparents to their children and grandchildren. It's not about grand claims or flashy promises. It's about trust, experience, and the quiet power of something that feels right for the body. That's how I came to know mustard oil, not as a miracle cure, but as a humble, time-tested ally that has changed the way I move through my days. Several weeks after I began using mustard oil, I couldn't help but share my experience at the senior community center where I spend my afternoons. At first, my friends listened with polite skepticism, their eyes narrowing as if I were spinning a tall tale. I could almost hear their thoughts. Another remedy? Really? But all it took was one person to try it for the tide to turn. That person was my neighbor Clara, a woman whose hands had grown stiff and uncooperative, especially in the chilly mornings. Her fingers, once nimble enough to knit intricate scarves for her grandchildren, had betrayed her, causing her to drop her needles in frustration. I handed Clara a small bottle of mustard oil and explained how to use it. Take a teaspoon in the morning before breakfast, I told her, and try massaging a little into your hands with a hot towel at night. I described the process carefully. Warm the oil slightly, rub it gently into the joints, then wrap a towel soaked in hot water around the area to let the warmth and oil sink in. A week later, Clara found me at the center, her eyes brimming with tears as she pulled me into a hug. The pain in her hands hadn't vanished completely, but for the first time in months, she could knit again without her fingers seizing up. "I didn't think I'd ever make another scarf," she whispered, her voice trembling with gratitude. That moment wasn't just about the oil, it was about reclaiming a piece of herself she thought was lost forever. Word spread, and soon another friend, George, decided to give it a try. George had been struggling with hip pain that made even short walks feel daunting. He wasn't expecting miracles, he was clear about that. "I'm not trying to feel 20 again," he said with a chuckle, "but I'd like to make it to church without worrying I'll topple over." After a few weeks of using the oil, he told me he felt steadier, more confident in his steps. It wasn't that the pain had disappeared entirely, but it had softened enough to give him back something invaluable: trust in his own body. For those of us in our later years, that kind of confidence is worth more than gold. What sets mustard oil apart from the countless pills and prescriptions many of us rely on is its gentleness. Traditional medications often come with a price: stomach upset, drowsiness, or interactions with other drugs that leave us feeling worse than before. Mustard oil, though, is different. It's not a drug, it's a food, a living ingredient brimming with natural compounds that the body seems to recognize and welcome. It doesn't assault the system or demand dependency. Instead, it works quietly, consistently, in harmony with the body's rhythms. I often tell people it's not miraculous. It's not about erasing pain in a single dose or promising impossible cures. It's about accompaniment, about softening the sharp edges of discomfort and giving the body space to heal at its own pace. How I use mustard oil and how you can try it. Today, mustard oil is woven into the fabric of my daily routine, as essential as my morning cup of tea. I don't follow any complicated protocols or chase after dramatic results. I approach it with respect, consistency, and an understanding that it's not a cure-all but a powerful tool to support my body. Here's how I incorporate it into my life, along with some practical advice for anyone curious about trying it themselves. Every morning, before I eat breakfast, I take a small teaspoon of mustard oil. I follow it with a glass of warm water to help it settle. I won't sugarcoat it. The taste is bold, almost pungent, like a blend of toasted nuts and sharp spices. The first few times, it caught me off guard, and I grimaced as it went down. But over time, I've come to appreciate its intensity. It feels alive, like it's waking up my senses. More importantly, as my body began to respond, the taste became a minor detail, overshadowed by the benefits I started to feel. Less stiffness in my joints, a little more ease in my movements. On days when my knees or lower back feel particularly achy, I use the oil externally as well. I pour a small amount into my palms, rub them together to warm it, and gently massage it into the sore areas. The oil glides smoothly, and its warmth seems to penetrate deep into the muscles. When I have the time, I take it a step further. I soak a clean towel in hot water, wring it out, and drape it over the area where I've applied the oil. The combination of the oil's natural properties and the soothing heat feels like a gift to my body, easing tension and calming inflammation. It's not an instant fix, but it's a ritual that brings relief and a sense of care. If you're thinking about trying mustard oil, there are a few key things to keep in mind. First, not all mustard oils are created equal. Look for cold-pressed, unrefined mustard oil, as these retain the full spectrum of medicinal properties: antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds, and nutrients that processed versions often lack. Many oils labeled for cooking are refined or blended with cheaper oils, which dilutes their benefits and may introduce unwanted chemicals. Read labels carefully, and if possible, source your oil from a trusted supplier. Second, always consult your doctor before adding something new to your routine, especially if you're on medications or have specific health conditions. I shared my plan with my primary care physician, Dr. Ellis, who's been looking after me for years. He listened patiently as I explained my interest in mustard oil. "As long as you keep moving and it's not causing harm, I don't see why not," he said with a nod. Then he added something that stuck with me: the body often understands things science is still catching up to. His approval gave me confidence, but more than that, it reminded me to approach this with balance. Not as a replacement for medical care, but as a complement to it. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. What mustard oil can and cannot do. Let me be clear about what mustard oil is not. It's not a magic bullet that will erase chronic conditions overnight. It won't replace necessary surgeries or make pain vanish like a fairy tale potion. If you're expecting instant results or a complete reversal of years of wear and tear, you might be disappointed. But if you approach it with patience and consistency, it can offer something meaningful: a reduction in inflammation, improved mobility, and a sense of empowerment over your well-being. For me, the changes have been subtle but profound. I can get out of bed with a little more lightness, climb the stairs without gripping the railing quite so tightly, and enjoy my daily walks without the constant fear of pain creeping in. These may sound like small victories, but at my age, they feel like reclaiming pieces of a life I thought I'd lost. Mustard oil has given me the ability to move through my days with more dignity, to feel less like a prisoner to my aches and pains. The bigger picture. It's not just the oil. As much as I value mustard oil, I've come to realize that it's not the whole story. It was a spark, a starting point that ignited a broader shift in how I care for myself. The real transformation came from a collection of small, deliberate choices. Habits so simple they might seem insignificant on their own, but together, they've made a world of difference. Let me share a few of these with you, not as a prescription, but as an invitation to consider what might work for you. First, I started moving more intentionally. I'm not talking about marathons or gym memberships. Those aren't practical for most of us in our later years. Instead, I set aside 10 minutes each morning for gentle stretches. Slow ankle circles, arm swings that mimic swimming, and careful bends to loosen my hips. These movements aren't strenuous, but they wake up my body, keeping stiffness at bay. The key is consistency, doing a little every day before the joints have a chance to lock up. Second, I've learned to prioritize real rest. Sleep isn't just about closing your eyes for a few hours. It's about creating the conditions for your body to repair itself. I stopped keeping the TV on at night and moved my phone to another room. Sometimes, before bed, I give myself a brief massage with warm mustard oil, focusing on my shoulders or calves. The ritual is calming, and I wake up feeling lighter, with less heaviness in my bones. Finally, I've paid more attention to what I eat. I didn't overhaul my diet overnight or become a nutrition expert. Instead, I made small, sustainable changes. Cutting back on fried foods and sugary snacks, adding more vegetables, and choosing whole, natural foods whenever possible. I noticed that certain foods, like processed meats or store-bought breads, seemed to worsen my inflammation, so I phased them out gradually. These adjustments aren't flashy, but they've made my body feel more cooperative, as if it's thanking me for treating it with care. A lesson in simplicity and dignity. In the end, mustard oil isn't the hero of this story. It's a partner in a larger journey. It works best when paired with patience, self-respect, and a commitment to caring for the body that has carried me through decades of life. At 82, I've learned that it's never too late to treat yourself with dignity, to listen to what your body needs, and to believe that improvement is possible, even when hope feels distant. I've been where many of you might be now, resigned to pain, convinced that nothing new will work, that the body is too far gone to respond. But I've also learned that solutions don't always come in complex packages or expensive prescriptions. Sometimes, they're found in the simplicity of what's been there all along. A natural oil, a gentle stretch, a good night's sleep, a meal made with care. Mustard oil didn't give me back my youth, but it gave me something far more precious. The ability to live with less pain, to move with more confidence, and to rediscover the small joys that make life worth living. If you're feeling weighed down by discomfort or frustration, I want you to know you're not alone. You don't have to accept pain as an inevitable part of aging. Start small, whether it's with mustard oil or another simple change that feels right for you. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and trust that even at this stage of life, there's room for things to get better. For me, that's been the greatest gift of all. The chance to try again, to care for myself again, and to believe that even after 80, life can still feel a little lighter. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey. My story isn't just about finding relief from pain at 84, it's about discovering that it's never too late to take care of the body that's carried us so far, to try something new, and to reclaim the small freedoms that make life worth living. I've shared how a simple teaspoon of cold-pressed mustard oil, combined with gentle movement, better rest, and mindful eating, gave me back the ability to walk without wincing, to climb stairs, and to feel alive again. But now, I want to hear from you. What have you learned from this story? What's one thing you've taken away that you'll bring into your own life, whether it's trying a natural remedy, moving a little more each day, or simply refusing to accept pain as normal? Please share it in the comments below. I'm excited to read your thoughts and learn from you too. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stories and wisdom to help you live better, no matter your age. Keep walking, even if slowly, every step counts.